Sapphic shows are just always getting canceled, and it needs to stop because, in the wise words of Billy Eichner, let's go lesbians. Hi, hello, how are you? A lot of changes happened, as you can see. I moved and then I got overwhelmed, so I disappeared for a while, but I'm back. Today I'm going to be ranking canceled TV shows because I have beef with some of these streaming platforms. Some of the best TV shows get canceled and I'm tired of it, so I'm here today to talk my shit. I know some of you mentioned some TV shows in my poll, but today I decided to mostly include the shows I've seen all the way through. So obviously I'm not going to be able to include everyone's favorite shows, but feel free to comment below what that show is if I missed it and where you'd put it in the ranking. I am also not going to count shows that have been canceled and then revived again, like Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Cobra Kai, for example, just because I feel like those don't really count. Like, the people got what they wanted, and I'm here on behalf of the people to be salty today. So I've created 4 tiers this time, the top one being Bring This Back or Else. I know I'm about as intimidating as a cottontail rabbit, however, this is me telling the execs to bring this back or else. The second tier is wouldn't go hard for this one, but I get it, which means that the show isn't my favorite, but I definitely think that another season was earned and that the cancellation makes no sense. Third is If Only You Were Better, which is for the shows that really aren't horrible but also aren't good. Like, I get why they got canceled. We saw it coming, I'm not upset about it. And lastly is Rest in Purgatory with a Heart, for the shows that honestly deserve to be canceled and arguably didn't deserve to even have a first season to begin with. And the first show on this list is I Am Not Okay on Netflix. This show is about a teenage girl named Sydney who is navigating her crush on her best friend and also learning that she has telekinetic abilities. So it has superpowers, it's sapphic, it has the girl from It, who I believe is Sophia Lillis. This show is so good. I love the plot, I love the characters. It ended on this huge cliffhanger about her father and about her telekinetic abilities and someone else who may have them. I made the mistake of watching season 1 because it looked good, and then I didn't realize that season 2 was canceled, so after I watched season 1 I was like, hee hee ha ha, when is season 2 coming out? And then I was really upset, and Netflix said they canceled it for COVID related reasons, but I don't understand why they didn't just delay it, like why they cancel it, especially because they were still making shows during the pandemic, like Outer Banks. So what? I need this to be brought back, so I'm putting this one at the top. The next show is Anne with an E on Netflix. I read Anne of Green Gables when I was younger, which is what this show is sort of based off of. And I can't remember how much of the show I watched. I know I attempted to watch some of it, but I don't remember if I stopped watching because I got busy or if it was not my thing. But I do know that a lot of people watched it and a lot of people were talking about it, so it's surprising that it got canceled. It was really popular. It tackles so many themes, and I believe CBC, the company that makes the show, said they wouldn't make shows on Netflix anymore because according to them, Netflix makes deals that hurt the long-term viability of our domestic industry. And then when they canceled the show, the alternate reason they gave for canceling it was that they didn't have enough viewership in the 25 to 54 age range, and I believe a lot of people pointed out that whatever metrics they had for that weren't accurate. Nonetheless, the fans rioted and created this petition to bring the show back, and to date it is the most signed petition for a canceled TV show ever, and they never brought it back, which I think is criminal. So even though the show's not my favorite, it deserved another season, so I'm putting it in the second tier. Next we have the Santa Clarita Diet on Netflix, and this one got canceled after 3 seasons. This show is about a couple who are real estate agents, and one of them one day starts to show symptoms of being a zombie and starts to crave human flesh. So the whole family tries to find a cure and they try to navigate this new change. I never watched it, but I do know that among the audience the show is very well liked. Anyone I know who has watched it says it's funny. I just think it probably didn't grow enough of an audience for Netflix to keep renewing it. But I also heard that it apparently also kind of fell off at season 3, so I don't know. I don't think it should go in the bottom 2 tiers, so I'm going to put it in the second one because I wouldn't go hard for this one, but I get it. Now we have the Gossip Girl reboot on HBO Max. First of all, a reboot of the show barely 10 years later makes me feel so ancient, and I am literally Gen Z. But also, this Gossip Girl just didn't hit the same. I feel like it isn't surprising that it didn't capture people as much as the original because it just didn't have the same essence to it. Also, like, why did they make the teacher's Gossip Girl? Why did they make the teacher's Gossip Girl, and why did they reveal that in the pilot? Make it make sense. Also, season 2 flopped so hard, so it's really not surprising to me that it got canceled. And honestly, no tea, no shade at the cast. Like, they all slayed with the material they were given. However, this must never be done again. Also, speaking of reboots of 2000 shows, apparently One Tree Hill is getting a reboot sequel series, which is crazy and I'm sort of nervous for. So if you are a One Tree Hill fan, please leave a comment below on what you think about this, because I don't know. Next is The Idol on HBO Max. Do I even need to speak on this one is the question, because like I'm just still floored by all the iconic people they've included in the show, like Divine Joy Randolph, Tori Sivan, Rachel Sennott, and yet the show is like irredeemably bad. If you don't remember or you don't know, first of all, congratulations, and second of all, how did you end up here? This show is about a pop star trying to make a comeback after being on a hiatus due to mental health reasons and her new relationship with a Hollywood cult leader. And things happen. Things do take place. I mean, it feels like so long ago, but also like it was just yesterday that Sam Levinson was calling the show of the summer, and everyone was like, no, it's really not. But yeah, this one deserves to go at the bottom more than I think any other show on this entire list. Now we have Julie and the Phantoms on Netflix. This one is about a girl named Julie who starts a band with 3 ghosts, I think. I've always known about this show, but I've never watched it myself. Just because when it would pop up for me, it very much gave Disney Channel to me. Like, it had those vibes, and I mean, Kenny Ortega is the director of the show. He is the man who made the High School Musical trilogy and the Descendants trilogy, so that vibe check isn't exactly wrong. And I don't mean that it gives Disney in a bad way at all. I just mean to say that it gives me the vibes that maybe I'm too old to be in its target audience. I don't know. That being said, people really ride for this show. Like, there are 3 shows that I see in the comments of every Netflix post on Instagram, and that is Bring Back Anne with an E, Bring Back the Society, and Bring Back this show. It's rated well, the writing's been praised, it has multiple daytime Emmy awards. So genuinely, I don't see why it was canceled other than maybe Netflix wasn't satisfied with its viewership. I don't think there was a clear reason given, so I'm gonna put this one in the second tier. Next is Miracle Workers on TBS. I love Miracle Workers. It's so underrated. I am so upset that it's not on a streaming platform anymore because it was on HBO Max for the longest time and now it's not anymore. This show stars Steve Buscemi and Daniel Radcliffe, and it's an anthology series, so each season has a different plot, different setting, different characters. And the first season is definitely the best one and my favorite. It's about heaven's infrastructure, essentially. There's different departments, and Daniel Radcliffe's character Craig is essentially working in the department where he grants or denies humanity's prayers, and Geraldine Viswanathan's character Eliza is just transferred to that department. And in this whole infrastructure, God is their boss, and God is played by Steve Buscemi, and he is an absolute dumbass. Like, in this show, God is canonically illiterate, and it's so funny and it's so good. What I will say is that I enjoyed all 4 seasons, but it did get weaker with each season, so I imagine that it got canceled because season 4 was the weakest and viewership probably went down by then. However, this show gave us Daniel Radcliffe voguing to She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain When She Comes, so I desperately need the show to come back. Now we've got Insatiable on Netflix. This is that horrible Netflix show starring Debbie Ryan that got a lot of backlash when it first came out, and then everyone sort of forgot about it. It's about this girl named Patty who's been bullied all her life for her weight, and then she gets assaulted by a homeless man and put in the hospital. So while in the hospital, she loses a lot of weight, and then she becomes really thin, and when she comes back to school, everyone's treating her so much better because she's now thin and hot and desirable. It got so much backlash for being very insulting and fatphobic, and a lot of people pushed back on that, saying it's satire, but like, okay, was the satire done well though? Also, even aside from the backlash, I found the show to be pretty boring and dull, so I think it deserved to be canceled, and it just wasn't good, so I'm putting this one at the bottom. Next is Shadow and Bone on Netflix. I know that this is based off of the book by Leigh Bardugo. I haven't read the book, but I do know about Six of Crows, and I've read a little bit of that. Based on the part I read of this book, I neither love it nor dislike it. I definitely think that the plot was interesting, but I couldn't handle all the POVs. I think I'm still recovering from Blood of Olympus and Rick Riordan's Heroes of Olympus series because the whiplash of going from different characters' POVs was too much for me. This is a tangent. Shadow and Bone is a different book. I haven't read the book, nor have I watched the series. However, from what I heard, season 1 was good and season 2 sucked. Apparently, they tried to incorporate Six of Crows into the second season, which didn't work for a lot of people, and also the cost of production was not justified by the viewership. What I will give the show is that it has Ben Barnes. However, I think this show belongs in the 3rd tier. Next is Everything Sucks on Netflix. I think I just really have beef with Netflix because almost all of these shows are from their streaming platform. Everything Sucks is about a group of outcast teenagers at this high school in the AV club and in the drama club, and they make a movie together. I did think that the show was funny. It has very sitcom-y humor. However, I personally couldn't get past the age difference of the main character and her love interest because it was a huge age gap. Like, I think it was 13, 14 years old and 20 years old, so it really turned me off to the show. It wasn't bad otherwise, but it definitely wasn't good enough for me to be upset about it when it got canceled, so I'm gonna put this one in the third tier as well. Oh my god, now we're on to My Lady Jane on Amazon Prime Video, and this is the real reason why I am making this video, because this show just got canceled. My Lady Jane was so good, and it was everything that Bridgerton couldn't give us. It is a historical romantasy of the Tudor era of England, specifically Lady Jane Grey, except that there's a twist to her ending. And the romance tropes are romance troping. Like, it's fun, it's campy, the acting was impeccable, and so was the chemistry. I loved it so much, and I really thought it would get a season 2 because so many people were talking about it, but they barely waited 2 months after season 1 came out before canceling it. I feel like they should have done better with the marketing. Like, I think I learned about the show through word of mouth on the internet, and I didn't really see any promotional material of the show until I started seeking it out. The reason, apparently, and I could be wrong about this, but apparently the reason that it got canceled is because it didn't make it to the Nielsen's top 10 list for original shows. And mind you, this is an arbitrary list of top 10 original shows across all streaming platforms. And My Lady Jane dropped when the new season of The Boys came out, a new season of Cobra Kai dropped, a new season of House of the Dragon dropped. Like, making it on this list is a crazy criteria for renewing a show. Anyway, I'm really upset by this one. Like, why can't we have nice things? I'm not even a horse girl. I am just a girl. This one needs to go at the top because I feel personally victimized by this one. Now we have The OA on Netflix. I didn't finish this one. I watched season 1 and part of season 2. This show is about a girl named Prairie who goes missing for 7 years, and then she returns home and she now has these special abilities. This one was definitely interesting at first, but then it got a little crazy and started to make less and less sense, but yeah, I never got super into it, so I'm gonna put it in the third tier. Now we finally have The Society on Netflix. Girl, how did this happen? This is the most complained about show cancellation I have ever seen. This show is about a group of high school students that come back from a field trip, and when they do come back home, they realize that everyone else in their town has disappeared and they have no contact with the outside world. So they have to learn how to build, lead, and govern their whole community. And honestly, it was a very interesting and unique premise. Like, it's not my favorite show by any means, but it was so popular. A lot of people watched it, a lot of people loved it, and it got canceled for COVID. Like, again, why didn't it just get delayed? Why did it get canceled? And there are still people rioting to this day 5 years later, so I think the show needs to be brought back. Next is Blockbuster on Netflix. Blockbuster was a show that had so much potential, but ultimately disappointed. I watched it all because it has Melissa Fumero from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and it also has Randall Park from Fresh Off the Boat, and the premise is that they run the last Blockbuster video store that's still running. And I feel like they were going somewhere interesting with this premise, but ultimately chose the wrong one. We're in such an era of nostalgia, and I feel like it would have been so much better if they had set it in the 90s or 2000s and their characters were just running a struggling Blockbuster store or something like that. I think we're at the point where, as much as I hate to say it, we're very nostalgic about the 90s and 2000s, so I think that would have worked a lot better and would have pulled in a lot more people. But also the humor was pretty hit or miss for me. It's just upsetting because it had so much potential, and ultimately I understand why it got canceled, so I'm gonna put it in the third tier. Second to last is Sense8 on Netflix. Sense8 was really good. It's about these 8 individuals from different parts of the world who realize that they are mentally and emotionally linked, so they try to find each other and understand how they're emotionally linked and why. I don't think it's for everyone, but it did do a really good job tackling its themes. Like, anyone I know who's watched it says it's an emotional masterpiece and it's legitimately challenged the way they see people or the world. And when it got canceled, fans rioted so much that it got a 2-hour-long special to tie up the loose ends, which I think shows how beloved the series is, so I think it belongs in the second tier. And lastly is First Kill on Netflix, which I've talked a little bit about on this channel way back, like 2 years ago, I think. Sapphic shows are just always getting canceled, and it needs to stop because, in the wise words of Billy Eichner, let's go lesbians. I'd say some of the writing was like a little cringy, but it was still entertaining. Like, honestly, it wasn't more cringy than Riverdale's writing, and Riverdale had like, what, 7 seasons? So like, what gives? What now? Like, it doesn't need to be incredible? No. It's gay vampire fun. I'm gonna put it in the second tier because is it good? but I feel like it deserves more credit than what it's given. And that is my ranking of canceled TV shows. I think this list is fairly distributed. Obviously, there's not a lot of shows that I am rioting for, but there are a lot of shows that I get the hype for. Let me know what you think in the comments of where I rank these shows, especially if you disagree with me. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and thank you so much for watching this video.